Hello, everyone. This is Ken Quigley from Keystroke, and this is our last webinar for May. And what we're going to be focusing on is a new product called Call Aid. Before we begin, though, I always like to go through a few housekeeping items. First thing is, please make sure you don't turn on your cameras. This event is recorded, and if you turn on your cameras, it kind of shrinks the framing of the screen, which requires a lot of editing to get to release for people to watch later. Okay. Second thing is, please keep yourself muted. Anyone that calls in late, we may have to manually mute them, but it obviously disrupts the recording. Often it's unintentional, but there's background noises that get quite disruptive. Okay. Third thing is, don't worry about taking notes. This is recorded, and a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today is written down, but we're going to be going through the full illustration anyway. Okay. The last thing is, I did mention that it is recorded. It's nice that someone called in just as I was starting this. So this is recorded. So let me show you where it's going to be. So scroll down. This is our home page. Scroll down and then click on upcoming, not upcoming events, Keystroke training videos. And then scroll down here, and where you see Keystroke product videos, tomorrow you're going to see a button here talking about Call Aid. Okay. Now for future events, always check back, especially at the beginning of the month. You see that we've got this Call Aid pop-up right now. Just scroll down, click on upcoming events, and you'll see all the upcoming events. If you check next week, you'll see all the ones we've got scheduled for June. Okay, so with that, let me go back to the home page. We'll close here. Now, if you did click on the pop-up, you would be presented with, you would be brought straight to the shopping cart displaying this. Now, as you can see here, a lot of the stuff, the setup instructions, some of the feature breakdowns, all is covered here. Okay, so you can reference this after it. And here is the download link. Okay, now what I've done is I've completely uninstalled this from my computer. If you go to the download link, you'll see here, I'm just going to scroll up. Okay, now if you go to actforwork.com, you get a slightly friendlier interface, and then you scroll down, click on Call Aid, and then here's the installer. Currently we're on 1.007, and then here is the manual. Okay, you see this version here because every time that you run the updater, which I'll show you, it's going to check to see what the current version is and provide you with the update if one is available. Okay, and then the last thing is I'm going to actually show you the manual here that we've got. It's not very long because you'll see this setup is fairly straightforward. Okay, it's been nicely designed by our marketing team and should cover most of what you need. Okay, and that's, as I said, available. Let me just move this out of the way here. Okay, so this is where I would download the installer. I am going to not wait for, have everyone wait for this. So here is my my installer, and I'm just gonna, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close Act. As you can see, just a regular layout. There's no phone icons or anything like that. I'm gonna close Act, and I'm gonna run the installer. So this is what will appear when you download. It's just under 32 megs, so it's not that big in size. Okay, now while this is installing, let me talk a little bit about the product. Okay, so Call Aid for Act is a click to dial add-on that works with your VoIP soft phone, Skype, Magic Jack, and even tappy devices, which basically means hard phones with a modem. Okay, and it makes dialing from Act easy, accurate, while ensuring that you always record a history of the call. Now, as you can tell from our SKU here, it is currently on sale. So what we typically do with new products, we have an early adopter discount for anywhere between 30 and 60 days. So Call Aid is licensed per activation, and it's on sale now for a one-time cost of $49.95 until the end of June as part of our, as I said, traditional early adopter discount, after which point it returns to $59.95. Now, this is a one-time cost. Okay, so you don't have to worry about subscriptions, annual or otherwise. If you ever need to get a new computer, you need to install it on that, you can deactivate it from your current installation and install it on another one. Okay, so I'm going to go through here. Now I've got it installed, and I'm going to launch Act. Now, the one screen that you would normally see that I'm not going to is you would normally see a licensing screen pop up that gives you the option to either register or try. You get a 14-day trial with this. I've already registered, even though that something similar to this. This is for a different program. Okay, I've already registered this, so even though I've uninstalled it and I'm reinstalling it, it's recognizing that the program has already been registered on this computer. Okay, and now we can see these two little dial icons at the end of the phone number. Okay, you'll see it's not here under the fax phone. Okay, and I'll demonstrate in a second why that is so. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the settings. We're not going to just immediately assume that it works. We're going to click on Tools, and we're going to click on Call Aid Preferences. Now, we're not going to start on this screen. We're going to immediately go over to Options and select what type of connection method we're going to use. Soft phone basically will cover most of the installable soft phones. And just to kind of give you context for that, this is our soft phone made by Bria, very, very popular, works with many telco providers for VoIP. And this is the one that we use. And I know there's different brands out there based on different telco providers. Doesn't really matter. Most of them will work with the setup that we're going to demonstrate today. Okay, so I'm going to select soft phone, nothing more advanced than that. But if you've got a Skype connection, then you would select here, Magic Jack, so on and so forth. And Tappy, as I said, is basically a telephone API, and it would work in conjunction with a modem, which truthfully not many people have. But if you got a USB modem, you can connect it to your computer and then connect it to a phone that will then dial out. Okay, we added that for those because we often get people asking us for that functionality that no longer really exists in ACT. But for today's purposes, we're going to select soft phone, and we got the option of saying, do you want it to put the icons on the right or left of the phone number? By default, it's going to be right because that's how generally more friendly to most people's layouts. You might have to move around and your extension code in some cases. Ours, it fit in quite nicely. If you do change it to left or do not show, then you'll want to make sure that you have to restart the ACT version to display it again. It will not automatically pivot from one side of the field to the other just by selecting this from the dropdown. Now, we put this in here. I can't think of a use case for this, but by default, we don't display it for fax fields, okay? But if for some inexplicable reason anyone wanted it, then you can re-enable it for there, okay? The next thing is you click on soft phones, and then you basically, I'm gonna actually just eliminate this so that you guys are seeing basically what you would see if you installed it clean. Okay, so Skype, self-evident, not much to configure here. Same thing with Magic Jack, other than, with Skype, obviously it's going to know the software. With Magic Jack, you're going to have to browse to the program directory and select the executable for Magic Jack. Okay, it's even saying looking for the Magic Jack program. Okay, and then you can set for country codes, style prefixes, things like that. But for today's purposes, we're going to be focusing on the soft phone, okay? Because that's what we're assuming most people will do. And as I said, Skype is pretty self-evident in terms of the setup. So now I want to basically navigate to the executable for the soft phone I've got right here, okay? So what I do now, if for any reason you don't know how to get this, okay, you don't know what the path is. So here's my Bria icon. I can right-click on this and select open file location, okay? And immediately I've got that full path here, okay? And I can just select this, paste it into that folder, and I'm good to go. Let me even just show you how to click here, paste it in, and now I'm going to click on browse. Okay, work quite as well as I'd hoped. Okay, so let's click on here. I know that it's made by Counterpath. I'm just going to go in here, Counterpath, Bria, and I'm just going to go down and I'm going to select the executable. Now you'll notice that this blank field, the software command line arguments, automatically populates, okay, with what is a commonly compatible command line argument. Okay, command line argument sounds like something very DOS-y from older days, but basically it's an API call. Okay, and then the last thing that we've got here is the call method. Now, by default, it's going to be a launch program. But if you look here, you're going to see call to, SIP, tell, and clipboard. Honestly, most of them are the exact same thing. They're all, different ways to launch the same program. Specifically call to SIP, as I said, they all operate in the same way, but some soft phones are designed to work with one or more of these specific call methods. So, we've got it in our manual where we show you, specific, call to parameters for that. We're not, portraying ourselves as, command line argument experts or anything like that. We're just using what we know is supported out there. Okay, so now we're going to stick with this. Now, remember I said, in terms of activating your program, when it's activated, you would see it here. Your license key would be here, and you click on deactivate, and you're able to install it again. Okay, but let's click on check for updates, and automatically it's going
to. Ken, what happens if they don't deactivate?
If they don't deactivate, then you will be prompted when you go to install it again, it's going to say the license is already in use. So if you try to install it on a second computer, this is based on your license is perpetual, but it is based on per activation and a one-time activation. So if you try to install it twice, it's going to basically say you can't, and you'll need to purchase it again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in this case, it says your version is up to date. There's nothing more to do. Okay, so let's actually watch this in action. I'm going to click on OK. Now, with here, once I click on this, it's going to automatically bring up this dialog box. Okay, and it's going to launch the soft phone. It's going to put in the number. It's dialing my cell phone number right now. So I'm just going to cancel that. So it's dialing my cell phone number. Okay, and now I'm going to click on cancel. Okay, because obviously I don't want to have a conversation with myself. And I'm going to record. You see how automatically it populates in the Chris Huffman name. Now, what happens in some cases is, I'm also going to stop this, is that you may have a conference call with several other people. And with that, you can click on this and then add in other people to this. Okay. So you can add in, okay, add in other people and, populate it as need be. Now, in our first iteration of this, we actually put in the type for you and we said it's a call, and then left you to do the, to indicate what the outcome was. What we've done, and we're going to show you why, is we've actually left it defaulting to call, but you can change it as needed. Okay, you can put in the regarding and putting any details. Now, the moment that you click on a stop here, the timer is going to end. And when you click on the history, okay, okay, it's going to save to the history. Okay, let me just wait for this to refresh. Oh, I've switched contacts here. How did I do that? Okay. Okay. So here is it. You can see this is a test. There's no other text, and it's recorded it. And if you go in here, you can see 1 minute, okay? Obviously, they don't have a whole lot of denominations below that, but it says it's 3:14, less than a minute, okay? Because it can't actually record the exact amount of seconds, okay? And then that's it. So now, why did we make these changes in terms of the timed history? The reason is that we had people, once we first started demoing this, we had people say, well, I use this, I would use this all the time for consulting, legal advice, anything along those lines, even technical service. So what I'd like to do is basically, even when I receive a call, um, launch this, look up the contact, launch this, and start recording the history. Render the service completely, okay? And when it's done, I can then pause this. I can change the type to something that I may want to track for billing purposes, and then I can, create an invoice from that, okay? Now, let me just pause here. Vic, any questions so far?
Yes, there is. Number one, is there an app or extension that would allow this to work with a cell phone?
No. So it just, technically you have to understand that there has to be a comm link. Okay, so with call aid is the comm link, the programmatic comm link between ACT and the soft phone. Okay, you can't dial out on a hard phone unless there is a comm link, and that would be the modem in most cases. Okay, if there isn't a modem, then you can't make a hard phone call. Okay, so this is largely for soft phones. Now, this is a great question because it introduces the whole strategy behind this. Okay, now, the important point is that, let me just go down here. Okay, um, it's a if you're going to look at a solution like this, a click to dial solution, it's important to understand what call aid is and what call aid isn't. Okay, call aid does not communicate directly with your VoIP provider's API, just the soft phone, and I'll explain why we did that. We used to have a product called Telephony for ACT that was actually hard coded to work with different providers, whether it was BroadSoft, I forget, there was a few others, okay? And we even had support for Skype and that. But the problem was, because we were going through the API, any changes on the telco side would break that connection, okay? And there is a reason why we avoided to do that. Not only was it a ton of maintenance, okay, but one, setting up a universal dialer provides pretty much support for anyone that has a soft phone, okay? So that's really good. The second thing is, we've got better quality control, since telcos cannot change their API and suddenly break our product, or discontinue an API due to acquisition. A lot of the telco providers that we previously supported have since been acquired and swallowed up. So all their APIs are now defunct. So this was something that was really, really frustrating. And we wanted to make this a one-time cost, and API support would require ongoing maintenance. We'd have to constantly update our software to support whatever changes are out there in the environment. We didn't want to go down that path again. Okay, so this is why we made that choice. Now, that has certain implications in terms of technically what the program can do. Okay, the first thing to understand is, because it is talking to the soft phone, it's only designed for outbound communication. So what's the implication of that? That means inbound calls, the kind I received right at the beginning of this message, or this webinar, it would not be recognized from the source, okay? Because there's no communication from the soft phone to call aid, just from call aid to the soft phone. So those looking for features like call pops, where the contact pops up and then you can just say go to contact, that would require an API level integration. And that's something that would often have to be custom made specifically for your telco. We've got that for our own, and we've had that for a number of years, but even then that made us reliant on it, and when they changed their API, we lost the click to dial functionality for what, Vic? I think it was like 1 to 2 months. It was a real pain, and
Yes, yeah.
there was literally no way around it. Okay, this is far more resilient. Okay, now the other thing is that it does not work with VoIP hard phones. Okay, with our telco, with our little API dialer, when we click on it, it will actually not just ring the soft phone, but it will ring out on all the connections to that extension through the API. Okay, and some of our users, our support people, are used to the hard phone, so that made it unsuitable for them. The rest that use just the soft phone, it worked perfect for them. Okay, so that was one of the big differences. In the cloud environment where you want to trigger the call but not necessarily take it, then obviously a custom API integration would be more appropriate. Okay, let's see, one other thing. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to point out here, okay, is the placement of these. Now it's one thing to say it's on the right or the left. I showed you where that's configured, but it's important to understand that these dial out, these click to dial buttons are programmatically placed there. They're not part of the layout. And the reason we designed it that way is that if you make a change to one layout, okay, then you can end up busting that functionality for every single other person on your team. Okay, this will work from layout to layout, and it will tolerate any changes to the layout. So that's why we designed it that way. And it also, honestly, it's just an easier setup. And asking people to install software and then go out and change the layout was often a call driver that we wanted to avoid. Okay. And then we've got the time thing that we talked about here. Okay. Now we did this. Oh, I did want to point out that when the call ends, this timer doesn't end. And that was because we wanted to have that multifunctionality where people can bill for their time disconnected from the actual soft phone. Okay. And you'll see everything. You've got follow-up activities regarding everything else. Sorry, go ahead, Vic.
Excellent. We have a couple more questions, Ken. One is, I have a Vonage business. It doesn't dial. So I'm not.
It doesn't have a soft phone?
It's
I'd
just
be surprised if Vonage doesn't have a soft phone. You may want to contact them specifically.
He said it does.
Okay, then if you install that soft phone and you configure it for either your extension or your setup and your account, then it should work. The call aid should dial out with it. Okay. Now, what you've probably experienced in the past is trying to make that connection between ACT and the soft phone, which previously wouldn't have existed. This bridges that gap.
All right, great, thank you.
And by the way, there's no leap of faith here. Call Aid is a 14-day trial, so you can download it. You can contact your telco provider, play around with it. If it doesn't work instantly, okay, you can play around with the different configurations, getting support from your telco. We just can't comment on what command line arguments might be appropriate, so we've put in some ones that generally are pretty reliable.
All right, another question. We have VoIP hard phones. Are you suggesting that Call Aid is not right for our setup?
I'm suggesting that if you want to work with a hard phone, you would have to get something that is programmed specifically for your API. Okay. Now, I can tell you we have a combination of both. I've got hard phones on just about every one of our desks, but I have transitioned completely over to soft phones. I find it conference calling easy, transferring to different extensions easier. So you may want to take a look at that. A lot of people will stick to hard phones as part of their initial telco setup and not be aware that the soft phone functionality exists. It not only exists, but look into it, you'll find that it often allows you to kind of, transfer across different platforms and supports it on your cell phone as well. So definitely call your provider to see what kind of soft phone applications are supported.
All right, thank you. And then Christopher responded again. He said it opens the app, but it doesn't dial. So that might be a support issue.
If it opens the app, then you check to see what command line argument you're using. We did run into some. We had one customer that we honestly spent an entire day trying to resolve this. They were a Ring Central customer, and their soft phone was kind of like a web app, and we just could not connect to it. And we spent an entire day, because it was a good customer and they were really anxious and looking for a solution. We spent an entire day and we could just not bridge it through that, through their kind of webby phone app. So it's universal, but I don't want to challenge anyone to find exceptions. But generally, we've had pretty good luck with most of them. If you are not seeing it launch and it populate, okay, then likely it's a command line argument, and you might have to change it to. Remember, I was showing the different call methods, either to tell or call to or SIP or any one of the other things. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you that we were playing around with different methods for how to manage this is if you make one call here, you see how these things overlap? If you position this, like your phone will generally pop up here and you want your history to be down here, all you got to do is record it once, and every time after that, it will come up in the exact same position. So you don't have to worry about it competing with desktop space, because it will, basically comply with whatever your last positioning was.
Excellent, thank you. So another question, do you have plans to support Google Voice?
Well, the short answer is no, but that doesn't mean we won't. I'm just not sure of what the implications are of it, and I don't know much about it at this point, to be honest. So if they have a soft phone provider or a soft phone application that allows them, I mean, I'm assuming that it may operate similar to something like Skype, but again, I'm speaking out of ignorance. I just don't know much about it.
All right, that's all the questions we have right now, Ken. So
okay, well, we planned this to be a 30-minute webinar because we knew that, I mean, it is a fairly straightforward app, so we didn't have to do that deep of a dive. And as I said, the documentation is pretty good for all the resellers on here. I want to assure you that this is reseller protected, so you can log into our website and buy it on margin. I really think that is something that we've had an increasing number of customers that have really needed that. When you think about clicking to dial, not only does it increase the speed of dialing, it increases the accuracy of dialing, but obviously forcing the create history to come forward creates much more reliable data that people can be accountable for and be reported on, and just it's a better overall CRM experience that just produces more productivity and better data. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'll let everyone get back to their day. Thank you very much for joining us. Do remember that it is on sale for $49.95 one-time cost per machine till the end of next month. So if you're interested, take advantage of it. Please, though, don't buy it before trying it. Download it from the actforwork.com. Scroll down to Call Aid, download the 2-week trial, make sure it's right for you, and that way when you do buy it, it'll be an easy transition and you'll be happy with the purchase. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a great day.